Right. So I got a few housekeeping rules. Thank you guys for having me. Since we at church, I brought my Bible. Uh, this is the Tennessee election laws. Gotcha. Tennessee election laws. So I want to do a little bit of housekeeping before I have the gentleman play a video. Spoiler alert, I am not here as a Shelby County election commissioner. I'll just state that now. I am fully aware of the politics of the situation. So it is disclosed at the beginning of this. So I'll do a little audience participation since I'm stating that I'm here as an election security specialist. This is something that I gained national recognition, 2016, and I did all of that before I got on election commission. And once I found some of the stuff that I found, then I wanted to get involved. So I want to get involved in an official capacity, so I got on the election commission. So the election commission does not precede the work that I've done. So for all who understand that I am not here as an election commissioner, can we signify by saying aye? All right. Don't mess with me because I'm going in. All right. All those who oppose? Okay, all right, so we have the ayes have it. So I got a statement and a question for you guys. So I'm gonna start with the statement. Man, thank you. And the question is, where have y'all been? I've been on an island, y'all. I've been on an island in Shelby County. I think I started, around 2014. I found some really nasty stuff. 2016 was when I got the national recognition. And I'm going to talk about something. Garland and I have a really good kinsmanship because the software that they just replaced still exists in Shelby County. So I'm going to take a peek inside of it and tell you what's in it. So if the gentleman can play the video, it's a quick 2-minute video. It's something from Bloomberg Business Week. I was a cover story of Bloomberg Business Week, and they covered a study that I was doing, but they didn't talk about what made me do the study, and that was me. I got probably 200,000 lines of code under my belt. I write code that I can get fired for, so I've been doing it for a living. And I examined our GEMS election management system as a software developer, and he's gonna play that video. And I think this guy is a reporter from Business Week. He covered it right before the 2016 election. So I came all the way down here so I could vent to y'all. So can you play the video for me, please, sir?
Interesting thing about the GEMS tabulator is not just that it's used in many of the elections that many of you watching may participate in, but it has a bug or a feature, as its creators would call it. And now this bug was discovered by a computer programmer in Memphis named Bennie Smith, who we profiled as part of our Business Week piece. Now Bennie has found some really interesting oddities about Memphis's vote counting and vote tabulation, some very serious problems that were undiscovered until he looked into them. One of the things that he found, which we didn't write about, but we think is really relevant here, is that GEMS has this feature where in very rare cases, in very rare instances where counties or municipalities are voting on land use taxes, certain votes can be weighted differently. So if I own 1 acre and you own 2 acres, in these very specific cases, your vote will count for twice as much as mine when we're voting on things like property taxes. Again, very rare niche cases. However, the system allows election administrators to adjust and basically weight races according to those guidelines. It makes a lot of sense in those limited uses. However, what Bennie discovered was that this feature appears to be turned on by default across this universe of GEMS databases. So what does that mean? Well, that means you can literally weight races based on who you want to win. You can plug in a percentage into these computers before the race and say, I want Jordan Robinson to get 75% of the vote. And yet the trick is going into these races, you don't know if you're going to hack an election, how many total voters will come out. It's very hard to rig the race if you don't know how many voters will come out. But if you can assign percentages to a given candidate, it doesn't matter how many voters come out. You can say Jordan Robinson gets 75% of the vote. Whatever the total number that comes in is tabulated at, the numbers can be adjusted accordingly. I mean, it's impossible to overstate how significant this is.
All right, so that's like a 25-minute video where I did not know what I was so green. I did not know what I was going to find inside of Shelby County. And I did this study because in the Bible it says that a county election commission is supposed to compare the tabulated results to the poll tapes, and that they were prima facie evidence. They had more capacity to talk about what happened, because it's like the cash register receipt. It's the closest thing to what happened at the precinct level. My dumb butt, I went and did it. So I took my BlackBerry out and I took a picture of a poll tape and I captured that it was 546 participants. Well, when it hit the central tabulator, that same precinct was represented as only 330 votes. So that's 40% of value. All right, so I'm a math guy and I'm a black dude. So if you do that 0.6, that's 3/5. Now it's really rough, right? So that wasn't the case. So that's not the case. But it was disturbing, because basically we can be treated as 1/1000th of a vote. We can be 1.9 of a vote. That's just really bad. And I've been hearing from some of the discussions of some of the people I've been talking with that some vendors say that this doesn't exist. Yeah, it exists. So it's pretty realistic. So if you guys, welcome to the top of the rabbit hole. I bring you greetings as having been to the bottom. So if you guys Google something called fraction magic, which is what I coined this calamity that I found in our voting systems, I do think it exists in all three. I've done a lot of research. I did it in collaboration with an angel who has real wings, Bev Harris of blackboxvoting.org, if you don't know her. She's an absolute standout. She's been on the front lines for a long time under her tutelage. She taught me a lot of things about elections and how not to talk to certain reporters, and that it was dangerous and a bunch of other things, because it's the real root cause. I think it's the real root cause. Again, like, I'm a software developer, does not belong there, doesn't belong there. I'm a Luddite, I do not approve, right? So, there are many ways to solve a lot of these problems. I'm gonna rush on so we can get to the question and answer thing, portion of this, because there are a lot. Confidence, no, I don't believe in confidence. You can give me some evidence though. So evidence is unambiguous prediction, right? If you can tell me how the election started and I can follow to how it ended, that is evidence, because unambiguously, I can see the outcome and I can predict it over and over and over again, and I can audit it. And you can drop me in the middle of the process and I can get my way back to the beginning, or you can drop me in the middle of the process and I can figure my way to the end. My background is in software development in finance. And I'm talking like Ernst & Young audit. And like, are we being audited? Yes, we're being audited again. I work in the finance department, right? So Sarbanes-Oxley, all these things that exist for major corporations doesn't exist in government. It doesn't exist. A bunch of laws. Y'all remember Enron? That's how we got Sarbanes-Oxley, right? Where you have to declare each step and authenticate it. And we have something in elections called chain of custody. We just don't. All right, y'all said it, I didn't say that. So transparency, right? Transparency. It needs to be clear. If I could have it my way, I'm gonna tell you. Well, if I could have it my way, I want us to hand count everything, hand mark paper ballots in public at gunpoint. And since we can't have it at gunpoint, then we can use a little technology, but we got to audit the mess out of it, right? So since we can't do it at gunpoint, because that's look, if my philosophy on this, and I try to stay away from my philosophy. My philosophy is, I'm not here. Y'all got me in a lot of y'all got me in a lot of trouble in 2020. Let me just tell y'all got me, because I'm a Democrat. And I got a lot of people when this stuff happened, and I was like, what do we do? I was like, you tell them the same thing you've been telling Democrats. Get the ballot images, ask for public records. I was like, I didn't realize I was being a Democrat when I was doing it. I thought it was integrity, right? I thought it was election integrity. I didn't know I was a Democrat at the time. So I found out that I was, because a lot of people who were Democrats, I'm probably gonna get in trouble for being out here too. But again, like this, look, I'm not here to save the Republicans. I am here to save the Republic. That is very different for me, right? That is very different for me. It's a republic. So I got this thing on my Twitter page, and it's in parentheses, because I remember, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. So I put in parentheses, Democrats plus Republicans, and then after the parentheses, I say times 0 equals democracy. So if we can get rid of that and just deal with what makes it a fair election, because if we're bipartisan here, so Garland is with the Constitution Party, I'm a Democrat party, and Fincham is in the Republican Party. So there's this huge rip in the country, And you got some people that's coming to the middle, and we are coagulating to repair that rip with truth. That's how you repair it from all parties. It's kind of hard to get out of the way of that, right? so that's what we're doing. And the way it should work is, can I assume that you're a Republican? Okay. How did I know? so you beat me, right? I got to go back and I do my postmortem, right? I got to retool. I mean, these people didn't like me too much, right? So what do they care about? I got to come up, politician. Every politician afraid of the next election, right? That's what they're really afraid of, and fundraising, right? So I got to say something to them to make them feel more at home with what I'm trying to do. But if you steal an election, there can be no postmortem because you don't know who beat you. So you know who can get the shaft? The voter. We're never going to get a better product. Doesn't it look like we're not getting a better product? Maybe it's because we can't verify what's actually happening. So I'm just ticked as a voter that I would like a Republican come ask me for my vote. You might just get it. If you're talking about my issues, you might just get it. And a fight go with that. If you're going to fix my issue, why would I not vote for you? But that's how we should all look as voters. So I don't really see it any other way. That's me, man. I'm from a really poor zip code in Memphis, Tennessee. And I'm very distrustful, and I'm a cynical guy anyway, so it is what it is. So voter fraud versus election fraud, right? Stop blaming it on the voter. Stop blaming it on the voter. Are you really meaning to tell me that I'm gonna find 100,000 people to risk going to jail so that I can keep my $200,000 a year job? Don't I got the incentive to do something here so that I can keep that $200,000 a year job and all the power and appointments and stuff? Like, follow government, see what it does. In many counties, the government is the largest employer. You know how much money and power that is? Man, I am staying at the Billmore in Murfreesboro. So so there's a lot. If you peel back the onion and look at some of those issues, that's where it goes. That's where it goes. This is where I think it goes. Software ages in dog years mixed with jet fuel, right? Somebody doing a 20-year bond for some. All right. So your iPhone is gonna be dead by the end of the year. It's iPhone, right? We voting on technology that's more inferior than the iPad 1. We're going to pay for that for 10 years? And we're going to transfer like $20 billion in signing authority over that? It takes 30 days to get a mortgage. I'm getting played. So that's just not something, it's sad. It's really sad. I think in the cover story for Bloomberg Business Week, the reporter wrote that the software industry does about $300 million for voting technology. Apple gonna do that in 12 hours. Man, Apple gonna do that in 12 hours, right? That just doesn't make, it's unconscionable to think that we transfer our democracy. We shouldn't spend that kind of money anyway. Paper, like Garland was saying, who you chose and what your choices are is valuable. Because if I leave your name off the ballot in 17 precincts and the voter didn't know and it's not gonna be documented anywhere, that's a nightmare. So you can have gamesmanship. They say he who counts the votes has the power, not the people who cast the vote. Right? So the people counting the votes have just a little bit more trust than I would like to. I always say that I don't have locks on my house because I don't trust my neighbor. I live in an okay neighborhood. I have locks on there so I don't have to. How about that? How about we stop talking about what we think is happening and make sure it can't? Let's just make sure. I don't want to put my lock on I locked my car when I got out. I don't know none of that. They say we're in the richest county in Tennessee, right? There's no way that I think anybody want that old iPad that I left on the floor and the bag of, the box of Tic Tacs that I got there, right? I don't think they want that, right? But I don't have to care because my door is locked and the keys in my backpack, right? So let's just create a locking system that doesn't call you fraudulent, doesn't call me fraudulent. It makes sure that when you punch me in my nose and I bleed, that I can respect you and say, I'm gonna fight you the next time and I'm gonna hug you at the end of the race. Like, let's create something that does that. So how do you do that, right? Right now, the system is broken, right? There's these two P's that are in conflict with each other, right? Private software financed with public dollars. And when the public wants to see what they paid for, they are told no. Man, get out of here. You can't do that. You can't do that, right? So you can never get the transparency until you remove the privatization of it and turn it to the public. If I want to see how many tractors the city bought and how they financed it, I should be able to go to a portal and find out all the way. It should be public, right? So you need to make all of these records public as soon as possible. For a technical representation, the ballot image is the ballot. That's what the software that tabulates. They tabulate the ballot from the image, not from the paper ballot in a bucket somewhere. It's in a bucket at the precinct. So how are we getting the totals? The images. So the images are the prima facie evidence for it. For the computer, that is the ballot. For the voter, the paper was for you. So we got to look at these things. And I'm gonna carry on because I'm supposed to get out of here. So the images are the ballots. The last thing is I'm working on an initiative with Bev Harris. It's unannounced. I'm gonna announce it here. Where we are going to go back, and I'm probably the only person that she'll pick up the phone for. We're working on this initiative to try to explain some of this stuff in a way that doesn't create a rabbit hole. There needs to be a catalog of some of these complex issues in a digestible way so that when something happens and the citizens come online, like I did in 2014, that there's a way to do it. Thank you guys for having me.
Hey, Gary with Tennessee Stands. I just want you to know that this conversation is far from over. We're going to continue to put pressure on our legislators and leaders in our state to fix the issues that we know exist here in Tennessee. So there is more opportunity that we're going to be putting forward to have these important discussions around election integrity. I want to thank Garland Favorito, Mark Fincham, Bennie Smith, and everyone who was involved in making this Election Integrity Symposium happen. I also want you to know, if you're watching this video, you can continue this conversation right now on the Freedom Matters podcast. We're so excited. We had Bennie Smith and Garland Favorito from the symposium come back the next day and join us in the studio for an awesome podcast that's going to release on Wednesday, February 2nd. So if you go to the Freedom Matters podcast and look for the episode on Wednesday, February 2nd, we had a great continued conversation with both Bennie and Garland about the issues that we're seeing specifically here in Tennessee. So please go check that conversation out. You can go to tennesseestands.org/podcast. To subscribe. You can also find the Freedom Matters podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and anywhere you listen to podcasts. So please go check it out and subscribe. Also, make sure that you go to tennesseestands.org and subscribe to our email newsletter because there's going to be a lot more information coming your way. Thanks so much.